Everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. Well, tonight we get to take a break from talking about all things Daystar, and we get to turn our attention to a proceeding and a court case that is very, very troubling. I'll put this on the screen. This isn't the first article that appeared on the Roy's Report, but it gets the point across. It's from April 21st, 2025. Son of Ohio megachurch pastors indicted on 27 sex abuse charges, including 11 counts of the R word. And of course, the pastors involved would be Gary and Drenda Keesee, who pastor Faith Life Church in New Albany, which is on the north side, a little bit out in the country from Columbus, Ohio, so in my home state. Both Gary and Drenda, I believe, still maintain programs on Daystar television. Oh, and I'll just throw this in. Interestingly enough, in about October of 2021, Joni Lamb, her two daughters, and Susie, Jonathan's wife, all flew over to Columbus, Ohio, and Faith Life Church, and spoke at a women's conference, Joni being the keynote speaker. I remember when Susie told me personally that at the end of the weekend, they kind of hung around, I think, for a day and just kind of had like a girls' day, fellowship day. But Susie spoke, I don't think a real long session, maybe even just kind of briefly, but they handed her an envelope, and when she opened the envelope, there was a check for $5,000. And so we can assume that's the same kind of envelope they handed to the two daughters of Joni Lamb. Maybe that was a bigger amount for the daughters, and probably much larger amount for Joni Lamb. But Susie, I believe she endorsed it, but at any rate, she gave that back, wanted to bless the church back. So really, in effect, did not accept the funds. And just for what it's worth, I will relate that on the ride home in the private jet, the Daystar private jet, that Joni began to come down with COVID symptoms, as I recall the story, and she got over that pretty quick. But that's actually how Marcus contracted COVID, and contrary to Joni's narrative, Susie will say that, and others would say that that's how Marcus lost his life. But at any rate, I was able to sit down to record an interview earlier today with attorney Vanessa Johnson, who has covered the Faith Life Church, Gary and Drenda Keesee and Tom Keesee debacle, and to discuss the latest. And so without further ado, we're going to get into that interview. She's a former prosecutor, has been in the state of Florida now in private practice at a high level for decades, but she has been on this case, covering this case from the very beginning. And attorney Vanessa Johnson joins us now. Vanessa, I already know how you are because we've already talked, but you can tell the audience. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Everett.
I really felt that this was very important for us to talk about. We were going to talk about it yesterday and got preempted by a lack of internet or something. This has been quite the week with all of the Daystar goings on and whatnot, but we did not want this case to slip out of the awareness, consciousness of the, observing public. There was a pretty noteworthy evidentiary hearing in this case that happened on Tuesday. But Vanessa, if we could, I would like to ask, for the benefit of those people that aren't even familiar with Tommy Tight Pants and the Keesee family and Faith Life Church in New Albany, can you kind of take us way back to the very beginning and just give us an idea of where we are right now, if you don't mind, please?
Yes, of course. So I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible, but this is a case where a son of two megachurch leaders has been indicted with 32 felonies of crimes against children, all SA, and there's 4 victims under the age of 13. and one of them is his sister. Now, this started back 2 decades ago. So one of the victims, well, his sister came out in, I think it was January or February of 2025 on Facebook and disclosed what happened to her. That then set the wheels in motion. She went to the police. That was Knox County, but Drenda Keesee, the mother of Tom Keesee and the mother of that victim, she holds an office there. She is a county commissioner there, so they couldn't investigate that. In the meantime, another victim came out, and so this got kicked up to the Attorney General Bureau of Investigation unit, and then that sat there for a minute, and that's when some whistleblowers were coming out because it stalled and there was no investigation occurring. And so people were very concerned because they didn't think that there was going to be justice and an investigation and justice for these victims. And come to find out, David Yost, the Attorney General, has a relationship with Gary and Drenda Keesee. So then when that came out, then he kicked it back down, and then it went to another county called Licking County. Licking County got the case in early February, and I believe around February 7th, 8th, or 9th, somewhere around there, they started investigating. So then it was another March, April, or February, March, April. So it was just about 2 months later when, actually 2.5 months later, because it was, I think it was April 18th, when Tom Keesee was finally arrested. So in the first indictment, it was 3 witnesses and it was 27 counts. And then after he was arraigned, then the 4th victim came out and then additional charges were added. And so he has 32 in total. There are all kinds of things, you know, the fact that this was delayed, people think that it's delayed justice. It's a small community. People are very upset. This is stemming from a megachurch, although it's not alleged that the assaults took place there. I believe that the allegations are the assaults took place in Knox County and perhaps some of them at Gary and Drenda's home, I believe. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people that have come alongside the survivors, rightfully so. A lot of people that are outspoken. The victims have maintained their silence. And I'm sure that they've been told by the prosecutor not to speak. And that's very, very common in these type of cases because it's getting ready to go to trial. Initially, there was a trial in July of 2025 that got moved to November of 2025. And during that time, as you might remember, Everett, when he was first arraigned, when Tom Keesee was first arraigned in April of 2025, he was given a $2 million cash bond by Judge Wetzel, who we're going to talk about in a bit. And for reasons unknown in November, because I didn't hear of any change in circumstances that would warrant the reduction, but on his own, I don't recall any basis. All right. So I'm just saying that for the record, I don't recall what the basis is. If somebody knows, go ahead and tell me, because I still don't know to this day. Judge Wetzel reduced it from $2 million to $1 million with a 10%. So Tom was able to get out on $100,000 with a GPS monitor that he has to pay for, surrender his driver's license and passport. So he's been out. He's been out since November. At that time, the jury trial was scheduled for this past Tuesday, which ended up being the evidentiary hearing. And that's what we're going to be talking about. And now the trial is set for September. And if you were to ask me, do we know if it's going to go in September? I don't know. Based upon the track record, there maybe not. You know, it's really hard to say because of what just happened on Tuesday at the evidentiary hearing. So the bottom line is we're here for the survivors, right? Their voices have not been heard. They haven't had their day in court. And it's very troubling and frustrating because you know, things that have transpired, there's a question whether they will.
Thank you for that summary. And I mean, that's covering a lot of ground really, really quick. I guess we'll spend maybe a couple minutes just for those that this is the first time they're hearing of it. We can't be exhaustive here. What really propelled this to even be at this stage was the fact that people spoke up on social media. Correct?
Exactly. Yep. That's the conduit. Social media is what brought this to the attention of everybody in the community, around the country. People are watching this. So It was by social media, and it has maintained in that realm as well, with updates, information.
I was just thinking, I think I got a cease and desist out of this, and
You did. You did.
They're not afraid. They're not slow about lawyering up, but and so it began with Gary and Drenda Keese's, one of their daughters, who is a victim, finally posted something to the effect, right, of, people have told me to be quiet. I'm tired of being quiet. I'm going to tell my story. And that's a huge step to take.
Isn't it?
Go ahead.
No, I said, isn't it? It is. Yeah, go ahead, Everett. I don't want to interrupt you.
That's because you're once you do that, you're standing in the community, in the church community, and your family's never going to be the same. There's a lot of pressure on you to just like lay low and whatnot. I think it takes an awful lot of courage, but that's what she did, correct?
She did, yeah, and it does, and you're right. And it's hard, and she's maintaining that. She doesn't have, to my understanding, any communication with her family because they're backing Tom.
Yeah. And for those that aren't aware, Tom, how would you describe Tom? Was he the compliant kid, like the math nerd, algebra whiz, or what kind of personality? Just real quick, if you could describe. Sure. Tom, go ahead.
Well, I'll use the word or the term that his mother describes him as, a rock star. She was very, very excited about him being involved in media at the church, and the young kids looked up to him, and he was around those kids, and they looked up to him and referred to him as a rock star. And he put on those, the musicals and all of that, and yeah, that's what you got.
Well, he's got a nickname called Tommy Tight Pants because of just different appearances, where it's just like you're like almost 40 years old, trying to look like a teenager. And I'll say this just so that we can set this and then kind of move on to what happened on Tuesday. But would you, talking to as many people as you have, Vanessa, and just watching this, would you think that it's a fairly common assessment that people feel that Drenda, especially the mother and the co-pastor in this case, treated Tommy Tight Pants, her son, with extreme preferential treatment?
It certainly does appear that way. Everyone that I've talked to has expressed that. When, if you've done anybody has watched any of her videos, there are many where she has him on there with her son. And she could have been on others, but maybe just brought to my attention the ones that she's with him. Yeah, there is definitely something there based upon what people have shared with me, based upon just my own observations of seeing the interactions and where we are right now. Is she backing her daughter? No, right. She's backing Tom. So that tells you right then and there, that's where her loyalty lies with him, the one who's been accused of these horrendous crimes against 4 children. Now, they're adults now looking back in time, but they were 4 children, all under the age of 13. And the other allegation, Everett, right? That the allegations is that she knew, that Gary knew that this was going on and did nothing to stop it.
And that's what's alleged. Okay, so go to Vanessa's channel and let me say this: our dear sister and friend Laura Lynn. Before we look at what happened on Tuesday and where we are, what role would you say that Laura Lynn and her program played in this whole saga?
Well, if she hadn't aired her first video with the first 3 the whistleblowers, then I don't think we'd be here. I think I shared that recently in an updated video, just looking back at what's transpired in the last year and several months. I remember Laura Lynn texting me the night that she did the video. It was after it was done, and she was upset, rightfully so, because it looked like nobody was going to take the case to investigate it. So she was asking me questions about it, and I said, let me look into it tomorrow morning when I get to work. And by the time I did, I remember seeing that there was already that petition that was out and people were signing it trying to get it moved. And it did. There was action that same week. So, you know, it happened where then it came back down from the AG's office, and it was now in Licking County, and they started the investigation. So it was just a couple days later. But then after that, Laura Lynn had a couple more whistleblowers. So the story was developing because Laura Lynn developed it. She developed it through the people that came to her and shared the information. And then the rest of us, me, you, everyone else who talked about it, we started talking about it. I knew and I felt led that I was going to focus on this because for me personally, as a prior prosecutor in SA against children, this was up my alley. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see that there's justice here. I want to see that he gets charged criminally. So I stayed on it and was watching it, you know, and it was kind of grueling even though it was just 2.5 months, it was during that time period when they were investigating. It's like, are they ever going to charge? You know, what does it take to do this? You've got 4 witnesses at that time, 3 witnesses at that time who were coming forward and already shared their story. What else do you need? You can work it up, you know, getting the other witnesses later, but at least get them off the streets. That was a big concern for me because, you know, you've got 3 people at that time coming forward. We all know that if that's happening, that there may likely be more. So there is that sense of urgency. Let's get this person off the street.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm leading the conversation in danger of just like sort of litigating the whole thing. But I just wanted the audience to realize that. And I also, it was an unrelated thing, but it was a Sunday afternoon and I had to call Laura Lynn about something. And she was exhausted. She was tired. This was a Sunday afternoon. And then the first program about this story ran that night because she felt like she had to, you know, give a voice to these victims. And so social media and podcasters helped put this out there where people were paying attention because it really looked like the system was just going to kind of cover it up. Is that a fair statement? Or
well, that's what it looked like. And so because of that, people went to social media, particularly Laura Lynn. And then it got the attention that it needed. And then, you know, it just accelerated from then.
So arrested back in late spring last spring, and then with a $2 million bond, and then just Shazam, that only needs to be like $100,000 that you have to cough up. And then with trial is supposed to start on the 19th, just a couple of days ago, but there's an evidentiary hearing.
Which is what happened back in November. Remember that right before the trial was supposed to start on November 19th, an evidentiary hearing comes up as well. And that is what pushed the trial to May. And because he was out, there's any waive speedy trial, so there was no need for it to come up, you know, within weeks or months. So they moved it out, you know, 6 months. And so I thought for sure for this one, it would be moved out another 6 months, but it's moved out to September 29th.
Okay.
About 3.5 months.
And so, it makes the lay people out there like myself say, is this just the card this a defense attorney, Sam Shamansky, plays? Like he'll wait right up to the moment that something's going to happen and, I need an evidentiary hearing. But anyway, So the evidentiary hearing was on Tuesday. What happened?
Okay. So let's back up a little bit. And I did share this on my channel. We didn't know what the evidentiary hearing was about. It was referred to, and I can't remember on the docket what it was referred to, but there was no motion attached to it. But it was clear, and you and I talked about this, Everett, from the get-go. As soon as you clicked on that Zoom, I mean, of course, the parties talked. The parties meaning the prosecution, the defense attorney, and the judge. They knew what it was about. But the people that were coming in, that they were subpoenaed, they didn't know what it was about. And so the first witness was Sabrina Warner, who is a civilian, and she's a fierce advocate for victims, for survivors, you know? And so, yes, she posts a lot. She is very active in the community. She wants to make sure that people are punished, who need to be punished, that there is accountability, that people are protected, all of those things. So, the interesting thing to start off in that regard was when, Sam Shamansky just went right at her. And the statements that he says, they're accusatory because it's cross-examination. So he was trying to, he was accusing her of getting leaked information. Now, based upon what came out, we don't know what happened. She was asked specifically where she got the information on what the number of counts on that first indictment was, because she posted the day before. So that is a very legitimate question. I'm going to address this as an attorney. If I was a defense attorney, I'd be asking that too. That would be a concern. But I said this before. Why now? That post was on April 20th of 2025. Why did you have to bring that up in an evidentiary hearing the day of trial, right? Why couldn't this have been brought months and months and months ago so that you don't delay the trial? If you want to take care of something, you want to investigate something, because you do have a right to investigate to determine the integrity of the underlying indictment. Right. You absolutely have that right. If there's any type of indication that perhaps information was leaked, because that could compromise the integrity of it. Witnesses believe that they're going into the grand jury proceedings and they're secretive. The court officials, they take an oath. They're secretive. These are secretive proceedings. And people are told that. This is generally known. And there's rules in Ohio and every state about that. And you cannot disclose that information. So I understand the tenor, so to speak, with the parties involved, because that is a very, very serious issue, because there is the Constitution that we have to abide by. Okay. Yeah. And so everybody has the right, if they're being charged with a crime, to a fair and impartial trial. So if there's any prejudice that can be shown, that, prejudices Tom Keesee from having an impartial trial, a right to a trial and not be severely prejudiced, then that's going to be looked at. But there has to be evidence. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of accusations that were thrown around the cross-examination of Sabrina Warner by both the judge and the attorney. And those are accusations. Those are questions.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Why don't we play, I think it's News 6 or something, Columbus, but maybe this is about 2-minute video, and kind of show the way the media is framing this. And I think it'll also show like the way I think the defense attorney is hoping the media frames it. And then we can pick up on, here we go.
You acquired grand jury information before it became public.
Knox County Judge Richard Wetzel demanding answers from Sabrina Warner, who admitted in court she posted on her Facebook page Gary Keesee Jr. would be indicted by a grand jury on 27 sex abuse charges the day before the details were made public. Warner testifying she could not recall where the tip came from because it was more than a year ago.
I have a lot of sources that send me information. I don't know who would have sent it or if it was just a guess.
Okay, I find that hard to believe.
The court not allowing us to show witnesses on the stand. At one point, the judge threatening Warner with arrest when she would not stop talking over him.
Do you know how to avoid finding yourself in contempt of court?
Speaking truth, which is what I'm doing.
Oh, there's more than that.
Grand jury proceedings are secret. They're sacrosanct, and she's violated it every which way but loose, and then had the unmitigated gall to lie to the judge's face about it.
Keesee was indicted on 27 sex-related crimes in April 2025. He was later indicted on 5 more charges. Keesee is the son of the co-pastors of Faith Life Church in New Albany and was a former leader in the church before resigning. Investigators say the victims, all under 13 at the time of the alleged abuse. 3, according to police, were church members, but there's no evidence the alleged abuse happened on the property. The social media leaks were brought up during a Tuesday morning evidence hearing.
I promise you we'll get to the bottom of it, guaranteed.
How is this going to impact your case?
It may or it may not, but as officers of the court and as members of this system of justice, it's our sworn duty to make sure that the rules are followed.
Defense attorney Sam Shamansky questioning several detectives about calls made to victims related to the sex abuse investigation that were not documented.
We don't know whether they're involved in the leak. I doubt it, but it's certainly extremely impactful to a case when victims are speaking to law enforcement, their conversations are not recorded and shared.
We attempted to speak with Licking County special prosecutors, but they denied our request for an interview. The trial now scheduled to begin September 29th. In Knox County, Steve Levine, ABC 6 News.
Vanessa, I would like to give you an opportunity to respond to that, but then I would actually like to kind of use that and just kind of take that apart, because there seems, anyway, would that be okay? Could we handle it that way?
Sure. And if there's something that I'm not hitting that you want me to address head on, let me know, So first off, I agree with what Sam Shamansky said in there. As an attorney, absolutely 100%. I agree with that. And I shared those sentiments when I spoke with the journalist at the Royce Report. Those proceedings they're secretive. And I get, maybe people don't realize that, I guess, but they are. You cannot, and the court clerks, all of the personnel that are involved in that, they're told this, they know this. This is not something that's new. And so you can't have people disseminating, leaking, sharing information that's coming out of that. That is entirely inappropriate. And it's going to cause problems. And these evidentiary hearings are going to continue. So my impression, first off, based upon what he said, I didn't hear that. I didn't watch that clip until yesterday. But I knew after the hearing, I was like, this doesn't end here. Absolutely not. This is just the start of it, because the questioning began and the judge told Sabrina Warner not to delete her social media posts or her text messages. Well, that means that they're going to take a look at this. There's going to be an inquiry. They're going to look and investigate, because what they're trying to find out, and what Sam Shamansky just said, he's going to get to the bottom of it. Whether or not this is going to be something that causes the case to be dismissed or not, we don't know. You first have to identify where the leak came from. That hasn't even been done. It's just allegations at this point, right?
Okay, and now I'm going to be a little bit contrary. Well, see, this is raising so many things. In other words, those of us, you and me, and the other podcasters, and everybody that is tired of the stuff that gets covered up in the church. A victim comes forward, that represents usually decades of turmoil that they're just starting to come to grips with, and they're ready to speak out. Like, as a podcaster, you're like, you want the story to be told. You want the story to be told. But what complicates that is we have to be careful how we proceed from once things reach that point. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. So that's why on my channel, I always say, if you're somebody out there that you believe that a crime has been committed against you, go to the police first. And then if you're not already in counseling, because obviously if something traumatic has happened to you, it's wise to get counseling, but also to get an attorney, because you need to navigate this in that type of, you need to know what you can do, what you shouldn't do, what you should say. So, there's a lot that is behind the scenes in this regard. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because there are a lot of podcasters that are in this space that are talking to victims. And the question is, are they trauma informed? Do they understand that what they have before them, whether or not that witness that's coming to them is saying that they're going to go to the police or not? Because just because they say at that moment, oh, I'm not going to go, guess what? They could change their mind the next day. And if you're not going over all of those possibilities with them, then, you could end up in a situation where you platform them and they're making statements that, it's not in their best interest. It could re-traumatize them. It could be used against them, perhaps. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that they're lying, but you just don't know. You do want, even as an attorney, in a civil case, you do want your clients as a plaintiff, right? Say in the example of, you've got a victim who's coming forward and they are getting an attorney and they're going to sue. As an attorney, you do want that story to be told, right? But when you have a criminal proceeding that's pending, you do not want the witnesses, the victims, you do not want them talking, and you don't want them talking to each other, because that can compromise the integrity of, the evidence that goes in at the trial. And because what's going to happen is they're going to get attacked by a defense attorney like Sam. And, that leads me into the testimony that was given by the officers. And he even admitted it. I don't think that he believed that the leak was coming from those officers.
Yeah.
I didn't get that impression whatsoever. The impression that I got, and remember, you and I were watching this, and it was the audio was horrible.
It was horrible.
The Zoom hearing. My impression was he just wanted the opportunity to get them under oath, because that's a statement under oath that he could potentially use against them in trial. So he got them to admit that, yeah, I didn't write down all of the, didn't create a report for all the times that I spoke to these one particular victim. And there were calls that were, 13 minutes, 34, whatever it was, but they didn't create supplemental reports. A lot of times that's what they would do, but they were saying that it wasn't substantive. They were answering questions, things like that. But he can attack them on that. It's not that the statement doesn't come in from the witness, that the statement doesn't come in from the victim. It's just that it goes, he can attack the weight of it. He can make an argument that, oh, they're colluding, or maybe the leak came from here. But I didn't believe that that's what was happening. I think he was just trying to get that on the record. So in the event they go to trial, they say something different. Oh, here's a prior inconsistent statement. I'm impeaching you. Look, jury, look, this is what they said before. Now they're saying something different. You can't believe them. That's what you do in a trial.
Right. Now, I want to go through this video if we can. I think it'll help, because still there's people watching, they're trying to piece this together and so forth. But before we go back over the video, and I'm going to do a famous Ohio for Freedom, back up and go a little bit and talk, back up, go a little bit and talk. But just as a general rule of thumb, tell me if this makes sense. As a podcaster, we're always looking for information that we feel led to share. Okay, I think that's describes me and a lot of us. As far as being trauma informed, if I am trauma informed, it's informally, and I certainly don't have any training. But is it would it kind of be a good rule of thumb? And there's no cookie cutters that fits every size, but like, if there's the possibility that a victim or a likelihood is going to pursue, especially a criminal charges, pursue that, they probably need an attorney before they start giving permission to somebody like me or somebody else to put everything out there, because once something has been said, the guys like Sam and others, they're looking for anything they can grab, anything they can twist, anything they can use against the witness. So we have to be very careful if we want to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, and be successful when we pursue these things. That was a long way of saying that, but does that make sense?
And I love that you said it and the way you said it. And so for your audience, I mean, obviously you and I talk all the time. So when you have a situation, you do confer with me. So, like, you're like, okay, I have this going on. What should I do? And that's great. You definitely want to get in the boat with somebody else. You don't want to just take it upon yourself. Just like you said, you might not know. Like for me, I've done this before. I have, in my experience, in my professional experience, I can determine what I need to do, but we all make mistakes, right? Yeah. But you really want to do the best for the survivors, 100%. And just like I said earlier, and piggybacking on what you said, you could be approaching this one way. Oh, well, they're not going to get an attorney. They said that they're not, but things can change because your trauma brain, when you start releasing things, and then people are, they are encouraging you, which is a good thing, but more stuff comes out that you forgot about. This happens. There's so many aspects, and people just don't realize it. And I've had that happen a lot, where people come on somebody's platform, then they come on to me, and I ask them, well, you went on there. Did you tell them that, you wanted to file a police report or whatever? They're like, well, nobody asked me. I said, well, did you tell them that you wanted to talk to an attorney before you did this. Nobody asked me.
Yeah.
So that to me is problematic, because if they are now saying, I want to do that thing, now you're in reverse. You know, you're trying to fix something. And sometimes, and I have had this happen where people contact me and I'm like, your footprint is so heavy on social media. I don't really know what to do with it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I want to say we're going to play just a brief few moments of Sabrina Warner answering a narrative that, in my view, they're attempting to spin about her. I think she handles herself amazingly capable, but just so people understand what the stakes are, let's do this, Vanessa, if you don't mind, if you can just work with me for a second. Okay, so this is the Roy's report. And I know you spoke to Rebecca, but just follow me for a second. So this is in media. The Roy's report is huge. Tom Keesee's indictment questioned in high-profile sex abuse case. Now, let me just say, when word we go, what would happen? That was really professional. Yeah, I want people to see me on the screen, Vanessa. When that was first began to be published on the Roy's report, those of us that care about victims were like, yes, something's happening, and we're excited. But look at this reasonable headline. Now the indictment is questioned, and I just want people to realize, folks, this is what the stakes are. We have to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And this responsible reporter that Vanessa spoke to, I'll read this statement, and you tell me if this is responsible reporting, Vanessa. A long-awaited pretrial hearing for an Ohio church leader pegged with multiple sex crimes charges nearly ended in the arrest of a witness Tuesday. That is that a reasonable statement to put in this article, Vanessa?
Yes, that almost happened. We were watching it. I thought that Sabrina Warner was going to be held in contempt. And if people are like, why? I didn't watch it and they don't know. Well, there's a colloquy between the judge and Sabrina Warner. He was asking her about her knowledge as to the number of counts in the indictment the day before, because she posted it. So he was asking her about it. Now, it was contentious. Let me just say this about the judge. I found it very odd that he told her that she had days or a week or something like that to prepare. Sabrina, there's no indication on the docket or anything that she knew, and I've listened to her statement since then. She had no idea what that was about. She went in cold. She had no idea. And she says, and I know you're going to play it, she said that she thought it had to do with the victims. Yeah. She had no idea what she was going to be questioned about. So for him to say that was very unfair, I thought. You had a week or whatever days to prepare. Prepare for what? Nobody gave her any items as to what to bring or prepare for. No, not at all.
We might air on another, program more of that Zoom recording of the meeting. Just that the audio was so horribly bad. But I will just say this, and then we're going to kind of take this apart. I will just say this, that to me, as just somebody who watches a lot of video, I just got to be honest, it really seemed like that the defense attorney, Sam, and the judge, they talked about this for more than 30 seconds. I mean, here's what I would say. It really appeared from the get-go. I thought the judge was doing the attorney's job for him. It seemed like the judge. That's the way to us.
Right.
See, I'm an expert layperson, Vanessa. It looked like the judge went in there with an agenda. We're going to take this apart. Let's get started on that here. Maybe if I click the button, it will. Oh, wait a minute. Hey, guess what, Vanessa? In StreamYard. Oh, God, I can't believe okay, take that out. Now we'll put this in. Here we go.
I'm specifically focusing on how it is that you acquired grand jury information before it became public.
Knox County Judge.
Can I stop right there?
Yeah.
Demanding
Vanessa?
answers from Sabrina Warner, who would
Wait, I didn't mean to play that. Okay, I've actually done this before. that was the judge talking to Sabrina Warner. I'm interested in knowing how you got grand jury information before it was released to the public. And I would say this, Judge, do you know what proof is? That has not been proven.
But that's what this
looks
is for.
very coincidental, but you haven't proven anything, Vanessa.
Right. Now, I have to be an attorney because I am an attorney. That is an appropriate question for him to ask because there has been brought to his attention, I'm surmising because we're here, right? They're there in that hearing, that this information has been brought to his attention, pointed out that there is a post that was made, like I said, the day before. So this is totally appropriate for the judge or even the prosecutor or, well, it's typically not the prosecutor. It's always the defendant, right? The defendant his attorney is going to be questioning this because the defendant is the one that's charged with the crime. Now, the judge's role is the gatekeeper. He's got to make sure that everybody's rights are protected and preserved and nobody's rights are trampled on. So I totally understand that. That is appropriate for him to ask that question. It is. So however, he is stating it, okay, I know the likelihood of it being coincidental might be low, but he's stating it as though that Sabrina absolutely had leaked information. That's not been proven. She might have just taken a lucky guess or surmised something. So I think I have a problem with his language. I really do. It was strong. It was, it just started right away. And like you said, it did sound like they were acting in concert together, so to speak, because it went from the judge asking questions to the defense attorney asking questions and back and forth. And the prosecutor just stayed silent. Typically, a prosecutor will weigh in a bit, but that didn't happen here. Now, you also have to know that there's contention between the prosecutor and Sabrina. This is not an easy, situation between these people and all of these matters. There's a lot of stuff going on. But at the end of the day, there has to be proof, just like you said. Was anything proven? No, it's just statements. It's just cross-examination. It's giving there is an idea that perhaps there was a leak and they have the right to investigate it. Do I think that it's going to stop there? No, I don't. Yeah. So people that are saying that it's going to stop, I just don't agree with that because as an attorney, if that occurs and this happens and you're representing your client who you have to zealously advocate for, you are going to investigate this. And I think that what he said in there too is that he was going to get to the bottom of it, find out who the leak is. Are they ever going to find it? Who knows? Was there ever any person? We still don't know. That was never proven at the hearing. And, we were texting and I was like, oh, good. They're finishing. They're going to have argument and then there'll be a ruling. There was nothing of the sort. They just, okay, everybody leave.
He's leaving that open-ended. I'm gonna keep this going.
In court, she posted on her Facebook page, Gary Keesee Jr. would be indicted by a grand jury on 27 sex abuse charges the day before the details were made public. Warner testifying she could not recall where the tip came from because it was more than a year ago.
I have a lot of sources that send me information. I don't know who would have sent it or if it was just a guess.
Okay, I find that hard to believe.
The court.
Vanessa, is that okay? But is that the judge's? Okay, I find that hard to believe. Well, he's not a jury and she's not on trial.
He is the one who's the fact finder for the purpose of this evidentiary hearing. So yeah, he absolutely is, and he can make those statements. Yeah. Okay.
All right. But see, they're trying to right out of the gate. They're saying this is what happened. You got a leak and you knew it, and you. Right. Okay, let's keep it rolling. Let's
not allowing us to show witnesses on the stand. At one point, the judge threatening Warner with arrest when she would not stop talking over him.
Do you know how to avoid finding yourself in contempt of court?
Speaking truth, which is what I'm doing.
Well, there's more than that.
Grand jury.
Okay. I got to be honest. I support Sabrina and I admire her and understand she's second, but I was thinking like, girl, just maybe back off a bit. Because what did it feel like when you saw that exchange between Sabrina and the judge? How close to?
She was very close. I mean, it's this isn't my first rodeo. So, when I see things like that, and it's countless, where you're having an exchange between a party, a witness, a victim, a defendant, anybody, a police officer and the judge, if you continue going on and you're interrupting and it's getting heated, the judge is going to throw you in contempt. They're going to find you in contempt, throw you in jail. So, even attorneys, I've had that happen to me too, where it's not like we're being disrespectful, but, it could be the silliest of things. And the judges, or they're just not happy, whatever, it's like, okay, you want to sit in lockup for a bit and, calm down, if you're a trial attorney in criminal court, if that hasn't happened to you, then you haven't really litigated. I mean, that is something that happens. So I've seen that, I don't know, hundreds of times where there's that going on. So, yeah.
I gotcha. All right. So now Sam is going to start putting his narrative out there. And I'm just going to let you know, and I don't know if we're going to agree on this or not, Vanessa. I have a few real issues with what Sam's going to say, but I guess, what's my programming say this? But I think it's important for us to realize that, folks, if we get into these arenas, Vanessa, we want to win. And so we got to be wise sometimes in the way I'm not saying anybody involved isn't. I'm just trying to tell the broader community, we got to be wise. We got to be smart how we proceed, don't we?
Yeah, for sure. Anybody on any of those platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, any of those. And so you really do. I mean, I wish that there was a check mark that I can say, do this, and you'll be good. But it doesn't work that way, because every fact pattern is different. Every witness, victim, everybody that comes to you, it's different. But it's exactly what you said. You have to be wise. You have to be wise about it. Just step back for a minute and don't be so quick to rush to the platform to get the first story out there. Don't do that, because you could be setting them up for failure.
Yeah. And I want to play this clip. I want to kind of take apart what he's saying, but this just occurred to me too. And part of the reason is, if we get to it, Sabrina took a day and kind of, I think, prayed about it, she said, but waited out, and she released a 15-minute video. And one thing that's very obvious from Sabrina's 15-minute video, she is one tough, courageous woman, and she's very smart. Okay.
Yes.
But the thing is that not everybody's made up that way.
Right.
And if you get yourself into an arena where they're going to clamp down, and so we just got to be wise. Let me go ahead and play. Let me go ahead and play this. Here we go. All right, now add it to the stage.
Proceedings are secret, they're sacrosanct, and she's violated it every which way but loose.
Okay, I'm going to do a famous Ohio for Freedom backupism, and I'm going to take apart the very first couple of things that he says.
Speaking truth, which is what I'm doing.
Well, there's more than that.
Grand jury proceedings are secret, they're sacrosanct, and she's violated it every which way but loose.
See, but Vanessa, I don't mean to do all the talking. Grand jury proceedings are secret, they're sacrosanct, and she violated it every way but loose. See, there's no filter on that. The news is just reporting that's right.
That's his opinion. Right. Which we can share our opinions. The first part where he's saying it's secretive, yes, it is. It is a secretive proceeding. Did he establish that she violated that and that she lied? No, he did not.
Yeah,
he did not.
Yeah. But see, he's using the media pretty effectively.
Had the unmitigated gall to lie to the judge's face about it.
There again, and then he puts that out there, and there's nothing counters that. And she had the unmitigated gall to lie to the judge's face about it. Well, I just got to ask you. Okay, exactly. Let me ask you: has he proven that?
No, he did not. We were waiting for an order. There's no order still. And I didn't hear any evidence of that. Now, again, the audio is horrible. I didn't hear everything, but I have since watched some of these clips and also read the articles, and their information is very similar to the notes I took. There is no evidence showing that there was, in fact, a specific leak. So right now you have to go by, okay, that's an assumption. So what Sabrina says, you asked her the questions, what she says is what she says. Now, they will, Sam is going to do this. He's going to investigate because he believes that there is a leak. And the fact is the judge is allowing him to get her phone records, right? The text messages.
I don't know, but I'm telling you, Sabrina sounded very, very, very confident in the video she posted. And this is just a total, like, out of nowhere, what if, but could something like this happen? Vanessa, somebody that's maybe one of the grand jurors or a court person, they're just talking about what just happened at the restaurant over lunch or a coffee. Even a waitress could have heard something. And if she was the right person, she could go, oh, wait a minute. So what I'm saying is they haven't proven anything.
Right.
I know.
And what you just said, those are facts that have to be cultivated through investigation, just like you said, right? Because we don't know anything. It's just allegations. Those are questions that are asked, and you've got that objective evidence of April 20th, that's her post, and then April 21st is the indictment. So that is what they're operating on. Again, I think that they're probably, them being the defense, they're probably going to go forward with we'll probably see another evidentiary hearing on this issue.
Well, the trial, maybe it'll happen by year 2050 or something. Anyway, here we go.
Keesee was indicted on 27 sex-related crimes in April 2025. He was later indicted on 5 more charges. Keesee is the son of the co-pastors of Faith Life Church in New Albany and was a former leader in the church before resigning. Investigators say the victims all under 13 at the time of the alleged abuse.
Forgive me, Vanessa. I just, as I hear this, remember he was a before he resigned. Do you remember? This is just sort of a bunny trail, but remember how didn't Faith Life, when this was first coming out, like Gary Keesee get up there and say nobody presently. Go ahead, explain that to the audience.
I think it's what you said. Presently employed has been accused of any of these type of crimes. Presently employed, something to that effect. Yes, he did. Because Tom had already exited months before. I think it was in August of 2024.
I thought it was closer than that, but it was a careful use of semantics. Yes. And yeah, okay, all right. Here we go with
3, according to police, were church members, but there's no evidence the alleged abuse happened on the property. The social media leaks were brought up during a Tuesday morning evidence hearing.
But see, he's saying social media leaks. Anyway, see, they're just running with this.
I promise you we'll get to the bottom of it, guaranteed.
How is this going to impact your case?
It may or it may not. But as officers of the court and as members of this system of justice, it's our sworn duty to make sure that the rules are followed.
All right. Now, Vanessa, you know I'm going to say something about that.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you I 100% agree with that. So, 100%. You have to follow the rules if you're an attorney. You have to. I understand that. Absolutely no argument from me. But boy, is it convenient for him in his narrative that way. Because when he can say that, and he can, he's perfectly in his rights to say that. But when he's saying that right now, he isn't, the defense attorney defending this, this creepy Tom Keesee. No, he's a bastion of justice. He's a pursuer of right and truth and the American way. But he's able to project that to the media is what I'm talking about. Right. Because for this one, there's that preservation of your rights, and that is what he's arguing. And everybody has it. If me or you, if we are charged with a crime, we stand there innocent until proven guilty, and we have rights that come with it. We have the right to a fair trial, unbiased fact finder, whether it's going to be the judge, whether it's going to be, the jury. So there are issues here. You can't. I'm not going to say that there isn't. There are, and him saying that he's going to get to the bottom of this. Okay, well, when? I hope it's not on the eve of the next trial, but but then to what end? I mean, what is this going to look like? Okay, so does it end if you don't get what you're looking for and you go through those phone records? I would suspect it ends there. So if you don't find what you think you're going to find, it's pretty much done with that.
Yeah. Let's finish this. There was something else that
Defense attorney Sam Shamansky questioning several detectives about calls made to victims related to the sex abuse investigation that were not documented.
We don't know whether they're involved in the leak. I doubt it, but it's certainly extremely impactful to a case when victims are speaking to law enforcement. Their conversations are not recorded and shared.
We attempted.
Okay, can I say before I turn you loose on this, Vanessa, and I'll say when they got to this during the Zoom, I'm thinking, okay, there may be some validity here, but if the way the Sam Shamansky, the defense attorney, is pursuing this, my goodness, people would do nothing but write reports all day long, every day on everything they said.
Mm-hmm. Right. I know. It's believe me, I'm in the system. I deal with this kind of stuff every day, but in a different context. And yeah, I mean, it's funny. I just was talking to one of my partners about something very similar. And we were like, okay, Judge, if we did that, then we would get nothing done all day long. And why would we hire a paralegal to do that, what they were asking us to do? So it just came up today.
Vanessa,
no, I agree.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can I quote you on that? I got to fill out my my special guest report. That I'm sorry. That was very. But that's right. That's kind
all
of the
day
point.
Long. Now I understand that because that is a very typical tactic that they use. That is absolutely a tactic that they're going to use because that's why. And I said this a couple times already, when there is an indictment, when charges have been brought, the prosecutor will say, now, please do not talk to the other witnesses. It's because of this, so that they're not asked on the stand, okay, well, you talk to them then, and what did you talk about? So here, in the last hearing back, the evidentiary hearing from November, he got those carrier records from Verizon, from the phone records. That's what that subject was. That's what he had from that 6 months ago. So now he has them. That's why he knows how many minutes they have. He's looking at the phones. He's looking at the phones between the victim, between the different investigating detectives, and then he's looking at the amount of time, and he wants to know what they talked about. And he can ask that, but that's where that comes from, I suspect. I'm assuming because, just connect the dots. So what that does is, all they have to do is create reasonable doubt. When they get to a trial, it's just creating reasonable doubt. Well, that argument's going to be made. Look, there's a 13-minute call and he can't even account for what they talked about. Oh, look, the next day, 23 minutes, 34 minutes, and on and on and on, and there's no report. So, yeah, that's something that he can argue to try to suggest to the jury that they're not on the up and up. They're having conversations and they're trying to hide something. He said, now, did they leak something talking about the police officers? I never got that impression by the way he was questioning them. I didn't hear anything, at least in that regard. As it relates to the underlying indictment, those questions were solely to Sabrina. That's how I heard it. I didn't hear any questions about anything other than, did you document your calls and what did you talk about? And is that protocol?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to play, there's about 10 seconds more of this clip, and I'm going to ask you a question that as an attorney you might not want to answer, but I'm still going to answer.
To speak with Licking County special prosecutors, but they denied a request for an interview.
Okay. And can I just ask, do the prosecutors appear to be working very hard on this case?
Oh, I don't know. Everett, I would not know. I have no idea.
I'm not. I mean, I recorded this. I can doctor it up if we need it. I mean, I can edit it and try to improve the sound because the audio is horrible and stuff. But honestly, as I was watching that Zoom proceeding, I was tempted to jump in the vehicle and drive up to Knox County and check that prosecutor for vital signs. But it's a 2-hour drive.
She didn't have anything to say.
Well, is that what usually happens?
Okay.
You just let the defense attorney do whatever they want to do?
So no, but you have to take it into context. So in this particular issue, there has been an allegation about the indictment. As a prosecutor, if that was me and that came up, but we don't know what they know. Okay, we don't know. They had to have a meeting. But as a prosecutor, I am not going to take a case to trial unless this has been resolved. If there has been a leak, you've got to get to the bottom of it, because the prosecutor is really, they have a balancing act. They are for the people, but they're all for all people. They have to make sure that they're following the rules. Okay, so there's that. Now, yes, the defense attorney, it's just his client only, but the prosecutor has to make sure that there's fairness all around, and same with the judge. So yeah, I mean, she just didn't have anything to say because she didn't have a dog in the fight. You know, she knew that the other two, the judge and the defense attorney, were going to do the fighting, so to speak. She didn't have to say anything in that regard. Okay.
I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a risk because Sabrina posted a 15-minute video, and I don't have anything queued up, but what I want to do, just in fairness, is play a little bit of this, Vanessa, because I think people will be able to pick up on the resolve that Sabrina has. And she conveys to me, here's the thing. Let me just, we're playing in the big leagues on a case like this, right, Vanessa?
Right.
And we just got to be careful, because this is evidence of you don't want to give any ammunition to the opposition. But I'd like to play just a few seconds, or just a little bit of Sabrina. Can't play 15 minutes, and you will see the strength, you will see the resolve. I am buying her story. Okay, if she says that, you know, that there's nothing that's going to blow up what she said in the courtroom, I'm going to take that. That. That's me. But I would also say that it's be pretty easy in situations like this for someone else, especially that isn't maybe quite as resolute, as strong or experienced or what. She's one tough woman.
Yeah.
But if you get into an environment where you've gotten in over your head and you've made a couple of mistakes, it could get really brutal really quick, couldn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Let me play this video, and then I'll just a little bit, and then I'm gonna ask you for your concluding remarks and anything that you want to add. But I want to
former FLC people, the current FLC people. Some of you are the ones that are liars. I'm not a liar. Some of you had a responsibility several years ago, 10 plus years ago, to come forward with information, and you didn't do it. So honestly, when you're out there laughing and making fun of and pretending like I'm sabotaging something, or that I've done something wrong, or that this is going to get thrown out because of Sabrina. No, it's not getting thrown out. Yesterday was a Hail Mary. Okay. Sam knows that Tom is cooked. Drenda is the delusional one. She's the one. Sam's going to take her money. This is like, I'm going to stop calling her Big D. I'm going to call her Sugar Mama. Okay. Because that is exactly what she is right now. Sam will take her money all day long. You want to know who's running their mouth out there? Is Big D. I came in prepared to talk about the victims.
Can you stop for 1 second?
Yeah. And
Sorry,
yes, ma'am.
Oh, that was it?
No, I can.
Okay. Well, what
I got
she
my
just
point made.
Let me just say this. She said that Drenda's running her mouth. You know, I have heard that on comments on my videos, that people are saying that Drenda is going around. Now, this isn't personal knowledge. It's people that are commenting, saying that, oh, the case is getting thrown out. So that questioning of Sabrina and the judge asking her those things, perhaps the judge should ask Drenda, because this is what I hear. Again, it's what I hear. I don't know for sure, but people are saying this, and it's not just one or two people. It's more than that. That Drenda is going around saying that this case is going to be dismissed, and it was going to be dismissed at the evidentiary hearing.
Well, see, wouldn't that, okay, and look, the Attorney General of the state of Ohio said, "Oh, I can't touch this because I've had Gary and Drenda over for dinner." Okay, so there's relationships and there's colluding or whatever it is, but aren't you describing what possibly is just like the attempt to orchestrate a narrative out there between the defense attorney and Drenda and maybe even the elected official who happens to be the judge?
Of course there's spin. So all of this, there's spin on all sides as far as, what we're seeing here. Anybody that, let me just say it like this. When I'm saying spin, I'm not saying that it's nefarious. All right. So obviously the point that Sabrina was making was that this was already happening where people were not coming forward with information, right? So we're in the situation that we're in because people did not come forward when they needed to. And so then it kind of just went, so many people were involved with all the information coming forward. And so at that point, you've got this community that is just tattered and shattered and emotionally they're wrecked. And so people are pointing fingers at each other, and there's just it's going through the criminal process, but it's also going through the social media process. And you can't, and there's people out there, I'm sure, I've got a million things on my mind going on, I'm trying to say this. You cannot tell people to stop talking. Okay. We have a right to speak. It's a freedom of speech. All right. It's just like what you were saying, but you have to be careful. We have to have this balancing act. There are people, it is my understanding, again, I don't have the personal knowledge, that have kept these things quiet. If they hadn't kept these things quiet, they would have been dealt with years ago. We wouldn't be here right now. I think that what Sabrina was saying is that, it's so easy to try to point the finger at her. But this has been, decades. When it comes out, it's like, this is decades in the making. It's very, very troubling. It's sinister. It's evil. It's wicked. So what do you expect? Yeah, people are going to be talking about this. Now, we are still to honor the rule of law. We have to have decorum in the court. We have to have that. Everything has a process and a procedure, and we have to follow the rules. So you're balancing and you're navigating through all of these things. Like you said, Everett, it's difficult. It's a tough situation. You have to be wise as a serpent.
She was, I won't say ambushed, Sabrina, but I mean.
Well, she was. She didn't know what she was getting into. She was ambushed.
And that attorney was really hoping, because he's observed her personality, very strong, very forceful. He was hoping he could push her over the edge so that she would completely lose it. She didn't, but that's what he was hoping for, because that would have
going back to the spin. Wouldn't that help with his narrative then, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Vanessa, give us a closing word. We commented specifically on this case, but if there is a broader lesson to be had or to learn for other victims and other potential situations and cases, could we close on that, please?
Yeah, I mean, this could be a whole day lecture, Everett. You and I have talked about this so much. I mean, the bottom line is, if someone is coming to you because they trust you, they're telling you about a crime or something that happened to them that might just an abuse that may not even be a crime, right? But you really have to take the proper course of action. Obviously, if it's criminal, you want to file a police report. And then if you're the person that's being entrusted with this information, if you feel like you're not the appropriate person for it, then tell the person so that they don't continue to lean on you or provide you with information. If you're somebody that you're just trying to get that information because you want to just blast it on social media, well, then perhaps you're not taking into consideration a very, very serious situation, which is the soul and the that individual. That's a person that's coming to you with this. I have cases right now where people are coming to me, and I am not sharing any of it because they have told me not to, and I'm not going to. And I know that it's a dangerous situation. It is. And I would love to be able to share it for that purpose so that people are not harmed. But I can't. I can't because they have entrusted me with that information. And I'm sure Everett, just like other podcasters, you and others, you're in that same boat, because I know we all talk and there's people that come to us and you have to figure out what's right for them. When someone's coming to you, they might not, because you are a podcaster. So in that context, you might be thinking, oh, they are coming to me because they want to be platformed. But I've had many a times where they're coming to me. They just want to hear that I believe them. They just want me to listen to their story. And I said this on my channel. Hey, if it's between talking to an abuse survivor and doing a podcast, it's going to be the former all day long. They need somebody to listen to them and to guide them. And if I'm going to be able to do that, I might not be able to do videos, right? Because I have a full-time job. So that's what it looks like. And I know you and I talk about that. You're in that boat. You have people coming to you all the time. It could be a whistleblower. It could be just somebody with some information that they weren't directly harmed, or it could be secondarily harmed, like a family member was harmed. We have all sorts of these. The bottom line is you have to be discerning. You can't just go out there, fast and loose and just unload on social media. You really have to process this and figure out. For me, it's always bringing me back what's the best for that survivor that I'm talking to right now.
Amen. Vanessa, I think we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much. In the description of this video, you will be able to find links to Vanessa Johnson's channel for a lot of great content and content related to this story, this issue. Also, we are putting the link to the Roy's Report article and that original episode on Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson's program that really kind of kicked this all up into a level of awareness that something would have. Pray for this situation. Folks, if you would like to be a blessing to Ohio for Freedom, you can go to our website, ohioforfreedom.com. Our donate tab has a PayPal link if you like to support ministries with PayPal or bank card, any bank card that you use for online, any kind of activity. Zelle, thank you to our Zelle supporters. It's quick, it's instant, and there's no fees, but we can't send an email to say thank you because we're not provided that. So we say thank you in advance. And for everybody that likes to use good old-fashioned United States Postal Services snail mail, our snail mail address is Ohio for Freedom at P.O. Box 344, Mason, Ohio. This has been one fast-moving week, and thanks to everybody that has tuned in. And we will say that until next time, God bless you, God bless your family, the state of Ohio, from which we originate, the United States of America, and we say, send our greetings to all our friends around the world. Good night, y'all.